What's up, everybody? It's Soren Baker.
Amir Rahimi.
And today on The Great Debaters, we're getting back to 88, man. Time to set them straight. Strictly Business, EPMD, The Great Debaters. Alright, Amir. So today on The Great Debaters, we're picking our top 3 tracks, favorite tracks, best tracks, all that, on EPMD's Strictly Business album. This album came out in 1988. I remember distinctly, this was another example of being at basketball camp at University of Maryland. I was there with Craig Dorsey, and I remember him buying this on vinyl. And I bought Schoolie D Smoke Some Kill on vinyl. So we bought 2 great albums on vinyl that day. So I was hearing it back in the day. What about you, Amir? What were your first thoughts when you heard Strictly Business by EPMD a few years later?
More than a few years later, that's for sure. So this is one of the first albums that I got. I was probably 13, maybe 14.
Okay.
And I remember first seeing the You Got to Chill video on, I don't remember if it was VH1 or MTV, one of those music video stations, and it was on one of those top lists. That's usually how I found a lot of the music from the 80s or 90s that I ended up buying in that time. So actually I bought this album probably off Amazon or in Best Buy or something like that. And then I remember at the time I was listening to a lot of NWA and rappers more in that vein. So when I listened to the Strictly Business album, I just wasn't that crazy over it. And I wasn't crazy about it. I don't know, I guess the mind frame I was in, I wanted more NWA kind of music, and this wasn't as similar, even though they were both in 88. So I kind of pushed it to the side. It wasn't until years later where I listened again. I was like, this is genius.
Pretty much.
First of all, Eric and Parrish, number one, great. Then we get DJ Kayla Boss, who is killing it on the album.
Absolutely.
And it's just this. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna get into one of my picks.
Go for it.
Okay. You're a Customer.
Okay.
Is one of them. And honestly, all of my picks are just, it's kind of the same reasons, really.
Okay.
And that is, Eric and Parrish are really just flowing. They're literally so good together, I think. And the chemistry, it's clear, right? The production is out of this world in terms of samples, in terms of how they use the samples, in terms of the cutting, the scratching, everything that Kayla Boss is doing, everything that Parrish is doing, everything that Eric Sermon is doing, right? I think it's quite genius. I think just not only the samples that they're using, but especially I think if you're a younger kid, let's say you're 15, 16 listening to this album in 2020, it's kind of you'll hear these and be like, well, I heard Nas use this sample. I heard this person use this sample. I heard that. And then it's these guys are doing it in 88.
Right.
And it still sounds excellent and better than a lot of the people who use it later. So You're a Customer to me is, and I know you want to say something, You're a Customer to me is one of those examples. One thing that's interesting to me is how they start off the song saying, "Knick knack, paddywhack, give a dog a bone." And to me, I'd heard that phrase a few times. I'd heard it, Big Daddy Kane said it, I heard them say it, and then they had a song on the next album, K Solo, called Knick Knack, Paddywhack. So I was like, why is this phrase so popular? I don't know. Maybe it was an 80s thing, I don't know. But then they do that, and they kill it. One line that confuses me, and maybe it was an 80s context thing, and maybe you can weigh in on this, I don't know. But there was a line in there where PMD says, "Smack me and I'll smack you back." And a lot of people I've seen online were saying that was a diss at Rakim because on I Ain't No Joke he said, "You can get a smack for this." And to me, I'm listening to this way later, I'm like, how is that even a diss? I don't know, I don't really get the subliminal in that regard, but apparently they had a very minor subliminals at each other. So is there any validity to that, you think, or?
Well, if you listen later on, so what you're saying, when he says people say we sound like the R and our music is whack. So basically, that's '89. So that's after this, and I think that there was I should say, not I think, people and this thing going on of they both rhyme slow. They're very particular and deliberate with their words. They're both from Long Island, and I mean EPMD and Rakim.
Correct.
So I think there was that kind of thing going on, and by comparison to what most of rap was at the time, especially the New York rappers, you know, they were a lot more had a lot more bravado and chest thumping, and like LL were like loud and proud and excited like Run DMC, LL, you know, they're much more out there. Even Big Daddy Kane, you know, a lot of his stuff that was starting to come out. So yeah, I mean, I could never tell if they're in reality or not, and I've never asked any of the parties involved, even though I've interviewed even though I've interviewed Rakim, Parrish, and Eric multiple times over the years, I've always had many other things I'd rather focus on, so I never asked them. So I don't know specifically, and I don't remember this line in particular. I'm sure they've talked about it, but I haven't seen them talk about it, so I don't know. But that being said, this song is astounding, just like every other song on this album. So the thing is, it's not one of my picks because in certain ways, I would argue 7 of the songs on this album are very similar in the sense that they're a little bit of stories, a little bit of messages, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but it isn't, other than 3 probably, that have very particular distinctive story through lines or themes. The rest of them are more like kind of bragging type of raps. Mm-hmm. So for that reason, while this is one of my, you know, it's hard to say there are any bad songs out of these 10, so I'm not going to say there are any because I don't think there are, but this is not one of my top 3. But I'm going to go with the one that starts off the album, the title track, Strictly Business, because one, as with all 10 tracks on this Strictly Business album, the production, I love that beat. I think it's phenomenal. I really liked how, as they started the album, I'd heard singles from them, of course, before this came out, but then to start the album, just their seamless back and forth flow and tag team rap style, I just thought was amazing. And then as a kid, you know, I've never drank, I've never smoked, I've never done any drugs. For Eric on there to talk about sniff, blow, hell no. You know, I just was like, it was interesting because I started noticing as a young kid, people starting to drink or people smoke cigarettes or people doing weed or whatever they started doing around that time in my life growing up, that these guys who were people that I was looking up to, aspiring to want to be like, were very clear that they were not doing that. So that just always really stuck out to me, and it was on a single, and it was a huge song, and it was these guys that I idolized. So that really stood out to me, beyond the fact that the rest of the song, of course, is genius, and you know, we see Warren G, among others, use this sample later. So Strictly Businessman, and it just set off the whole business motif that they used throughout their discography. And I just thought that the song, man, it was so good, and how it was a faster song also beat wise, or at least the feel. I don't know about the technical BPMs of it, but the feel of it was faster than a lot of the rest of the album, which is much more slow and in the cut, in the pocket. So I just liked the feel of it. It had a more energetic feel in the speed and the tempo wise. So that's my first pick. What did you think about Strictly Business?
It was really good, and one thing that I like that you touched on is kind of like the business theme as well, because I always like when rappers and artists stick to things like that. For example, you know, we see business throughout their whole career, and then we also see Jane. Jane is a song that they have on multiple albums, Jane 1, 2, 3, etc. And then even the people that they had worked with, like we get Redman, and he has his
Superman Lover
story. So it's always dope, and you can tell like the clear influence that they had on Redman, and not only influence but clearly helping Redman tremendously throughout his career as well. But I want to get into another one of my picks, and that would be You Got to Chill. And this is the song that brought me onto this album when I was like 13, 14, however old I was. And just that beat to me was just crazy. I like the video as well, how you have Steezo like dancing. You got, there's certain parts of the video where Eric and Parrish were like, I don't know where they were, but they were in somewhere that was cold. Yeah, they were in a freezer.
They were in some freezer.
And their breath is like, you can, every time they talk, you see their breath. And then like you see a freezer and there's the ice, you see other stuff. So I thought that was pretty funny, but obviously fitting. And then just like how cool, no pun intended or pun intended, how cool the rhymes were, right? Like Parrish had one line where he says, I like to let my rhymes flow, and at 12 I hit cruise control. And I just think that is just so smooth and so dope. Like, this rapper is hitting cruise control. Like, that is crazy. That's like rhyming is my life. I can hit cruise control on it and it'll still be dope. To me, it's so simple, but so dope. And it's like, kind of like what you were saying, there's a lot of like, kind of like punchlines not in your face, but bragging lyrics and a lot of stuff like that. And I feel like a lot of my picks are kind of like that. I just want to hear the MCs rap, and I want to hear a crazy sample and a dope beat, and I want Caleb Boss to do his thing as well. And I think this song is just, man, and also the cover of the single. The cover of the single is interesting because I if my memory recalls, Parrish is wearing like one of those Russian hats, like a Ushanka or something. Okay. So I was like, was that intentional because, you know, it's cold in Russia? I don't know. I'm like, it's just so funny, man. But that song is amazing.
Absolutely. That's not one of my picks, but I want to, you were speaking about the beats, production, and the sample. Like, I wanted to get into Let the Funk Flow, because that is probably my favorite beat on the album. And of course, we see Nas use it later for Nostradamus. And I just remember when I first heard that beat, it literally took me so many listens to even get to the lyrics, because I was just so like mesmerized or hypnotized or whatever I was listening to this beat, and the scratching that they had on it, and then the samples and stuff. I just couldn't take myself into the lyrical side of it, man, because this beat, it was just mesmerizing. And that's something that EPMD, not only on Strictly Business, but I would argue through their entire catalog, has really done an amazing job. There's some of the best beats, in my opinion, in rap history, and we see, I would argue, that being backed up by the fact that so many people sample them or use them in the exact same ways that they do. Not years later, but like a decade or two later, they'll use an EPMD thing in the exact same way. So just on the beat alone, I would have picked this song. And then, like the other braggadocio type of songs on here, it's just their tag team rap style and back and forth, and their like cool demeanor, and they have that like detached persona, but they're super tough at the same time. It's just amazing, man. And Let the Funk Flow, man, it just, the sound of it is just, I still get excited anytime I hear it, which is unfortunately rare. But when I do hear it, I'm just like, man, this beat is incredible. That's my second pick.
Dude, that song is wild. It's so good. And for similar reasons, as I've stated and Soren stated, my third pick, it's my thing, man. What else can I say, dude? It's so great. The production, again, fantastic. I think Caleb Boss, his cutting on this song is just so good. I don't know if I want to call it a chorus, but like the little bridges or whatever are just so excellent, and it's like a perfect little waiting period for the next verse to come. And I think just, oh my god, just this song is so excellent. One thing that I also kind of wanted to mention too, I also like how in this era the DJs were still like very important in rap, in terms of they were still seen as huge. Like Eric B and Rakim. Eric B was the first name before Rakim in the group, right? Like in this, they had Kayla Boss had his own cut on the album, DJ Kayla Boss. So I thought that was also really dope, and that's one thing that I wanted to mention too, that the DJs had a lot of playing time on these albums as well,
Absolutely.
just as individual artists. So I think that was very important, and that's also why albums in this era are just so good, because of everyone just having like their creative input and really working as a team.
Absolutely. And this is my third pick as well. The beat, of course, we hear later used by the Alcoholics, Only When I'm Drunk. We hear it later used by Drew Down on Pimp of the Year. And then we hear, of course, it later used by Jay-Z on the Ain't No Guy Like the One I Got. So this beat is just, again, astounding and amazingly done. And Parrish in particular I liked on his song just because I think his tone, his husky, muscular type of voice sounded so well with this funk, the 7 Minutes of Funk sample, and I just think it's just a perfect match, man. Like, it just has that pocket where they're just so funky and smooth in it at the same time, but yet tough. So it's just, the whole thing about it is just amazing. I think that really carries a lot of this album and why I think it's just phenomenal. And MC8 and I did a best albums episode on this on Unique Access, which you guys should watch, because 8 really broke it down in his perspective, being from Compton and listening to this album in '88 before he got on in a major way, and just it's just amazing, man. And this album is just so good. But those are my 3 picks. Those are Amir's 3 picks. Make sure to like, subscribe, share. Hit us up in the comment section. Somebody will hit you guys back and let us know what you guys think of EPMD Strictly Business. I'm Soren Baker.
Amir Rahimi.
The Great Debaters, y'all.
Be sure to check out The History of Gangster Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the DOC, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
There will be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
What's that 5 on your TV back with NWA?
Yo MTV, it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gangbang rappers.
The History of Gangster Rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
There's always gonna be shit happening in the streets. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The History of Gangster Rap in stores now.